Welcome back, guys. So today I want to talk about how to create NFT membership in our DAO. Okay, so number one, we'll initialize the ThirdWebSDK, and I'm gonna talk what is ThirdWebSDK. I'll give you a high-level diagram of that SDK, and then we have to deploy NFT contract. So after we initialize, we have to use that SDK to deploy a contract, and then deploy metadata explaining what our contract metadata look like, and then set claim conditions, how someone can claim our NFT. Okay, so this will be condition. Now I will explain you what is ThirdWebSDK. ThirdWebSDK basically, let me pull the diagram here. So ThirdWebSDK help us to write contract. Okay, to write a contract backend code without writing any code, basically. Okay, so what it does, we just have to file that contract, we just have to deploy that contract specification, and then it will give us the address of that the address of the implementation, and then we can actually use that address like as a pointer to get metadata, to get functionality, to get a lot of functions out of the contract. So basically how they implemented this, so this is how they actually built this. So what they did was, if you read here, you have the ThirdWeb factory, and then you have ThirdWeb proxy. Proxy basically points to contract implementation, and a many proxy can point to a single implementation contract. So it's many to one relationship. So many proxy, one implementation. Okay, and so this is kind of high level. And if you want this diagram, let me know on the comments below. But I want to make sure you understand why we do not write any contract code in this DAO, in this DAO application, because we're using an SDK. And if you have a good SDK, you don't want to repeat yourself, you don't want to invent the wheel, you want to make sure you're using this SDK, which can help you to write better application. Okay, now go back to our client code. So now we only deal with the client code. Okay, the backend side, we are using SDK, so we don't have to write a contract code using Solidity, for instance, or any other backend programming. So first thing first, I'll explain these one by one, but let me show you these three files, how they're going to look like. So we have the app.js, app.jsx. You can see I import here the ThirdWeb React. I'm using React here. And you can see this ThirdWeb, it gives me the use address, the use MetaMask, the use edition drop. This is what it does. So I'll explain line by line, but let's go back to this. This is index CSS, and this is index.js. So this is where the ThirdWeb provider is actually defined. And then inside the ThirdWeb provider, you'll open your application. This is your application. Basically, this file right here is being inserted here. You can see I'm importing this file over here as an app, and this file is being looped around the ThirdWeb provider. So and then that's it. So once you have this, you simply have to have, under your script folder, you simply have to have these 4 files like I explained. You have to initialize your SDK, you have to deploy a contract, and then you can actually deploy the metadata, and also you can set the condition of your NFT, and that's it. So that will enable you to have a functioning NFT, like you will have NFT deployed, for instance, in OpenSea, just by following this. It's very easy, just like the React code, and that's it. You go. So now let's go to initialize SDK. You can see here, you first initializing your SDK. So first thing first, you will have to have your wallet. Okay, your wallet will have a private key, and for my case, I'm using QuickNode API, QuickNode to deploy this application, and you'll have a public your wallet public address. So here I'm just checking if, and this is a file, by the way, this is the file I want to show you because it has my private key and public key. I don't want to show those, but basically inside this file, which is this one right here, you're going to have quick node API URL, private key, and wallet public address, and that's it. So this is just like initialization. Just initialize the SDK. So I'm initializing all these addresses and URL endpoints, and once I initialize there, you can see this. I can actually even, so here is actually quick node, this is a quick node API URL. RPC provider, you actually have a provider. Our provider here is QuickNode, and then you configure QuickNode with a private key. You get the wallet, and that wallet is being configured with the SDK, and then you return that SDK as an export, the default SDK, so that everybody can use. And once you do that, it will initialize it to give you the SDK initialized address where this SDK is located inside your blockchain network. Okay, and then we're gonna use that address. So just it will just point to where this initialization of these addresses, and you can see, if I do, I can show you how to initialize that. So this is the command where you run node script initialize SDK, and this will initialize. Sorry guys, this doesn't show. Give me 1 minute. It doesn't show the entire thing over here, but this is what it does, right? Node script initialize .js. Okay, so that it is. So if I run that, you can see it's initialized. My SDK has been initialized. Once initialized, you're good to go. You simply have to deploy now your contract. Okay, so this is a deploy function. You can say we are deploying, and this is our NFT. So this is just a random picture I choose, but you can choose any picture or any NFT you want to deploy, the name of my NFT, the description, and the image I'm deploying. So this is an NFT will be deployed by this deploy addition drop function, as you can see, to deploy that. That's it. And this is the, like, I initialize the SDK. Now I'm importing this SDK, and then I'm using this SDK to deploy. You can see this file which I've shown before. I'm actually importing here, and then I'm deploying the deploy addition drop. This is my NFT image. That's it. Once you deploy, it will give you the basically it will give the addition drop address where you have deployed in the testnet or in the blockchain network. It will give the address where you deploy. So you just you have to make sure this address, you keep that address. Okay, this address will help you to actually get your contract. For instance, I can actually now, because I deploy this and then to return this address, I can say, hey, I can use this function right here to get the contract. Okay, the contract name is called addition drop. All right, so I can use that addition drop address. I can get this contract called addition drop, and also I can even use by getting this contract, I can get the metadata as well of that contract. Okay, and this is just a console log. You will just print the address where it was deployed, because we will need it to interact with this contract. So you want to keep this additional drop address handy, because you're going to use this to interact with this contract somehow. Okay, now another file you want to keep, so now we have deployed our contract, we just have to configure it. Configuration can be anything. See, now I told you have to keep that addition drop address, because now, see, I want to do some configuration. I need to interact with that contract. Okay, how to interact with that contract? It's very straightforward. You simply, let me show you. This is actually showing to you guys, but you simply you can see that function, right? SDK.getAdditionDrop, and then I specify that address. That is a additional drop address of our contract, as I've shown before. So you need to keep that handy. So because now we're starting to interact, we have already deployed our contract, we have to interact with our contract. For this regard, what we are doing, we're just trying to add for instance, we just want to create a batch. We just want to add name, description, image. You just want to change, for instance, the name, description. I've already described this before, but we want to maybe, for instance, change it. So you need to have the address of that contract, and then actually create a batch function. Will actually change name, description, and image for you. So this is what it does. It changes that to this name and description, and then it will say successful created a new NFT in the drop, failed to create the new NFT in the drop. You can change, or you can create a completely different NFT in a drop. So this one is creating a batch, and it is creating this new NFT in that drop. We initialized before, but this is creating a new one. Excuse me if there's any confusion here, but if you have any question, please drop a comment. This, we're just creating a new NFT. So this, and then once you do that, so like I said, you can initialize. In order to deploy, actually, I'll tell you, like I said, you just have to run the deploy. This deploy, you have to point to this deploy file. In order to deploy that, you just run that deploy. And oh, wait a second, what it says, cannot find the module. There's a missing. See this is deploy.js, not deploy.j. So let me clear that. So I will get that going. So now it's initializing address, that is SDK, and then it will actually also print the address for our contract. So give it a time here quick to do that. So successfully, you can see guys, it already printed the additional drop contract address, this one right here. So this is we're printing, and this is NFT. So we'll be deploying this NFT inside our drop. Now the addition drop contract address, you have to keep that handy. As I said, you will be interacting with the contract as we go along. And now we do have to go to the config NFT. Like I said, as I explained before, the config NFT is just you're creating a new NFT inside your addition drop, but you have to use that address in order to interact with the contract and deploy some new metadata, or create a new drop or a new NFT, mint a new NFT. This is what the function is. Again, that also you have to run this. In order to configure, you have to run this. You can see if I run that, let me comment this one. If I run this, it will initialize SDK. Again, it will give me a success configuration has taken place. And then I'll explain you how to set conditions as well. And then you can set the condition. See, successfully create a new NFT in a drop. Like I said, that functionality was just to create a new NFT. You can create multiple NFT in a drop. Once you have a contract, you can deploy a bunch of NFT, a bunch of pictures you want to sell as the NFT. Alright, so next one, we can set condition. Condition is normally you have to set when, for instance, when people are going to be able to start claiming the NFT. That will be like a starting time. So you already have an NFT, and then maximum quantity, the maximum number of NFT that can be claimed. maybe per person. So, and then the price of NFT, I just set the price to 0 because like this is just a test, but you will specify the price of that NFT, and then the quantity limit per transaction. You can do those metrics like how you want that to work, and then waiting in seconds, you can do that as well. So these are some few parameters, and also you need, once you decide this, you need to again run this like scripty set conditions. Guys, if you need this code, I will be able to provide, just leave a comment, I'll be able to provide you quick, but you just have to run this one, and you can set the condition of your NFT. That's good. Okay, so this one again, to deploy, to give you an address, and that's it. So you see how easy it is. Just use the ThirdWebSDK. You'll be able to create a function. You'll be able to integrate your application without no issues. So see how successful set claim condition. You can change those conditions, deploy again and again. That's it, guys. So next time I will show you again, we can actually build upon this, and if you need this code, please leave the comment below, and I will shoot you a link to GitHub repo, and you'll have this code right here. You have this code, you can actually practice, you can see by yourself, and then you can ask questions. I'll be available to answer each and every question of you guys. I'll try to do that. Thank you.